Global Broadcasting Networks presents Military Mom Talk Radio. We know behind every strong soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine is the family supporting them. With over 200 episodes in 17 countries, over 5 seasons, with 3 million monthly listeners, we are radio strong. We're here to share resources and experts on topics important to you, the military family. Join us. We've got another great episode starting right now. Here are your hosts, Sandra, Beck, and Robin.
Hey, mamas, this is Sandra Beck, and this is Military Mom Talk Radio, and today's show is just for you. Rob, we have such an interesting guest today. I'm so excited to talk to her.
Me too.
So Susan Bremer O'Neill. Okay, I'm going to let her introduce herself because she is not only a military brat. She has grew up in a military family, but she has had what I think is one of the most interesting lives of any woman I've ever met, and I love that she has this desire to help women with their issues, not only as parents, but raising young girls and, who we are as women. It's right up my alley. Susan Bremer O'Neill, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to meet you.
Well, thank you, Robin and Sandra. I am just super, super happy to be here. And yes, I was raised in a military family, and I am now currently not. I need to say first and foremost, I have so much respect for military men, women, and it is just it's something that shaped my life and not necessarily always positive. But today I have actually made a business out of helping people from what I had to learn in order to just heal some of the challenges that came about from being in a family that was transient. And my business today is self-appeal. I do empower women and people in general to look inside themselves, to stop people-pleasing, to stop comparing themselves to others, basically to have internal validation. And my journey to get here has certainly been an interesting one, which I can talk a lot more about.
I would love that. And I want to read something off your website because I think it really encapsulates how I see you. There's a paragraph on your site. It says, the tips, tools, and techniques she offers women to empower them to stop people-pleasing and comparing themselves to others, eliminate perfectionism, stop obsessing about appearances, transforming their current relationship and finding smart romance in a new one, and embracing their body and mind to set healthy boundaries. This is just women, all of it right there in one bag.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I had to learn all of these things. And of course, I'm not done. It's a process. But that's what the basis of self-appeal is. What I found in my life was that I just continually searched outside of myself for what people thought of me so that I would look good to them, so that they would like me. And really, it was quite chaotic, and it certainly didn't make for any sort of a fulfilled or happy life. And then as I started working with women, as I started to grow my business, I found that it's women, and whether you're a woman in business or whether you're a mom or a student, I mean, it doesn't matter. We still wrestle with these issues.
Susan, I'd love to talk a little bit about the challenges that you felt may have helped you develop to the person that you are today. When you were a child, did you go to school with children from a civilian family, or were you on a base and were you with other military children, or when did you find that there were definitely some things that you personally had to overcome?
Yes, to all of it. I went to school in civilian schools. And actually, now that I think about it, I went to one school on base in a junior high. the hardest part for me as a child of a military man, my father, I must say, was a Special Forces Green Beret, and men would tell me later in life that he was very tough, but of course to me he was just dad. And we moved around so much, and that was the most difficult piece. By the time I was 9 years old, we'd moved like 8 times already, and not all of those were in the due to being having my dad reassigned, but some of them were even to, say, a new housing area within Fayetteville, North Carolina. We were stationed there, and so then I would go to a new school each time we were moved. And the most difficult period for me was as an adolescent, and adolescents in general just want to fit in and they want to be part of the crowd, and I found this excruciating after a while, having to move my 10th grade year of high school. I was in 3 different high schools that year.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, of course, I was just coping as a young woman in the myriad of ways that I found to cope, none of them healthy in hindsight. But I did make it through, and that was the most difficult. That was when I think the need to have external approval really, really took hold for me.
I think it's so difficult in our society that young girls are faced with so many challenges to either be like somebody else, be like the star they saw at the concert, be like the photoshopped model that's on the front of the magazine. Where do you think it begins for a family to help their daughter? And I don't mean that sons wouldn't have the same complex, because certainly young boys are seeing the built, the men's life exercises that create the huge
magazine.
Men's Health magazine.
In my son, 13-year-old's, bathroom, and he's looking at his hair and looking at his face and his teeth and his body in a way that my brothers never did. So it's just kids.
Yeah. It is. And that's not to say that every generation hasn't faced it. I'm sure that we did it too. But somehow, I think this young generation has some extra challenges with media that we never did as kids. And where do you feel, Susan, is the beginning part for, say, a mom or a dad to start helping that young girl or young boy not obsess over what they're not, but to be able to realize what they are?
Wow, you said a lot, and I agree that it's harder for young people today with social media. I think that the 2 things. I think the first thing is to stress accomplishment versus appearance. At least I know that would make a huge difference for young girls as they're starting to become aware of what they look like to others. And not that excessive accomplishment needs to be achieved, but just praise for anything that's attempted and done, knowing, of course, that there's growth. And if we pursue something, we get better. So that is one piece. The other thing, and I have a vision, and I have a vision of myself as a young girl, and again, once being upset because we were being told we were needed to move again. And my mother said to me, and I hold no malice, she was doing what she thought was right and trying to help me feel better as a young person. But she said to me, you have to change your feelings. And that has always stuck with me, because over the years, as I've tried to embrace all of my feelings and having to relive some of what I experienced in order to move through it, I realized we cannot change our feelings. So being very open to young persons' feelings, which they might not even be able to voice, but might show up in behavior, I think is crucial, knowing that all feelings are valid and need to be talked through.
Absolutely. I read an article not long ago, which was so fascinating. It was the article was titled "How to Start a Conversation with a Young Girl," and the conversation didn't start out with "What a pretty dress you have on," or "Aren't your ponytails pretty?" It was more about, isn't that an interesting song that just played, or what kind of music do you like, or I love the way you did that art project, or talking more into their capabilities as opposed to the superficial. Yes, they may have a lovely little dress on that they're very proud of, but bringing out the aspects of their personality, or the aspects of their potential or their creativeness was a far better icebreaker to open up for a little one. There's so many times that it's very difficult to talk to a little one because they'll just sit there and say yes, no, I don't know. the old shrug, I don't know. But to be able to get them to talk about the music, or to talk about ice skating, or to talk about their a bike, or something that they enjoy in that regard, is a far better way to open up that conversation. I also want to point everybody to your website, Susan, selfappeal.com. There's also a wonderful blog on your website that I hope people will tap into and read. Some very interesting topics here that we should probably get into. And I know Sandra's got a couple of questions. We're here today on Military Mom Talk Radio. We're talking today with Susan Bremer O'Neill. And on the other side of the break, we've got lots more. So I hope you've either got a cup of tea, a cup of cold drink, or whatever is making you comfortable, and putting your feet up and get real cozy, because we've got the full hour with Susan on the other side of this break. This is Robin Boyd with you, and we will be back in a moment here on Military Mom Talk Radio. We've got lots more ahead. Stay with us on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Get ready to live La Bella Vita with Dawn Catherine on TogiNet.com. Live La Bella Vita. If you're wanting to know all the beauty tricks of the trade and the latest fashion trends before everyone else, this is your show. If you admire celebrities' beauty and their fashion sense, this is your show. Do you love wine and want to know more about the process it takes to make wine from the vine to the bottle? This is your show. Live La Bella Vita. For more on the show and your host, check out our website, labellavitacosmetico.com. This is the kind of show you can sink your teeth into. If you enjoy traveling and food and family, all with an Italian flair, then you can live La Bella Vita with your host, Dawn Catherine. Wednesday nights at midnight, 11 p.m. Central, on TogiNet.com.
Did you know you can burn as many calories in 45 minutes of yard work as in 30 minutes of aerobics? Yard work is a total body workout consisting of pushing, pulling, lifting, and carrying. Using a push mower alone can burn 300 to 500 calories in an hour. Raking and bagging with a pooking fork, that's a fork often used in gardening, burns about 330 calories per hour. Cleaning and digging with the dibble, that little hand spade, can burn approximately 400 calories an hour. Stay fit by horb-gorbling. That's just puttering around the yard. To me, a perfect summer day is when the sun is shining, the birds are singing, and the lawnmower is broken. It's Marching Day. I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Hey, mamas, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and we are visiting with Susan Bremer O'Neill, and she has got such a unique perspective, and I really encourage you guys to check out her website. Susan, and Bremer is spelled Bremer, and O'Neill is ONEILL.com. And she talks a lot about on her site from sex appeal to self-appeal. And I think that's really important because, Susan, I worked in the tech fields, selfappeal.com. We can go to selfappeal.com. Sorry about that. I worked in the tech fields for many years under the name SJ. And I did that because many of the countries that I worked with were not friendly to women. They didn't want women handling their technology. Now, it's changed a lot in the last 10 years, but when people see big blue eyes, blonde hair, big boobs, tall blonde, that is not what they're thinking about, their programmer. And it makes it really hard. And I'm thankful that you are helping pave the way for women to be the best they can be, even if they don't fit if they don't fit what the archetype is for that job.
Yeah, I am so excited that you brought this up and you have this experience, because this is one aspect of my life I haven't actually talked much about, and that is that I was comfortable in school, so I'm very smart. I went to a laser technology program out of high school, and I worked with all men on laser systems for 3 years. I flew all over the United States and Canada fixing and installing laser equipment. And what I encountered is exactly what you're talking about, is that men would come. All of our customers were men, and they would come and they would hang around while I was working on their laser system. And it just never felt quite like they were interested in the lasers themselves. It was uncomfortable for me in a couple ways. First of all, I did not have a lot of confidence in my troubleshooting skills when I was performing that job, at least not initially. But also, I did feel like I was being just looked at excessively, and it was something that I really tried to downplay in a way, was my appearance, so that I would be seen as capable. But it was difficult. And I think that, again, emphasizing for women, no matter what you look like, the really great piece about today is that we can look beautiful, stereotypically beautiful. We can look strong and still do so many things. We can't change the mindset of other people, though, and we just have to be strong within ourselves so that we're not just taken in a certain way, meaning that we're just perpetuating one-dimensional woman. We have many dimensions.
Well, can I just jump in here really quick? Because this is just,
Sure.
This has got like all my cylinders firing over here. Can I just add on to, if a woman comes into an organization and she's attractive and you're another woman, don't be part of the bad guys. Embrace her and let her be herself, accept her the way she is. Because I will tell you, some of my biggest opponents over the years, Susan, have been other women. And I didn't wake up, deciding to be this way. God made me this way. And yes, I don't dress provocative, but I do have a look that attracts attention. I can no more not do that than someone else cannot. You know what I mean? And it drives me nuts because the women sometimes are the worst, and I want to be your friend. So don't judge me, because I'm not going to judge you the way you choose to display yourself to the public.
I completely agree. I did a short video about jealousy, and that's the thing is, we can go back many hundreds of years. Women had to compete for the man and for realistic safety. We don't have to do that anymore. And the thing that I tell women that I work with, and I have to remind myself of and embrace, is that we are all the same at our core. And And if we start to put certain women into certain categories, like I'm a slimmer woman, I have naturally slimmer genes, and I know that sometimes heavier women will make comments, then they have the mentality of an us and a them, and none of us get to come together and grow. So I wholeheartedly agree that the more we can open our heart and extend them to other women, no matter what they look like, or what they're doing even, just know that they are also the human that needs love and attention. I think at our core, we're all the same. We all want love, and we're all afraid of being abandoned at some level, and embrace each other because we can help each other that way.
Well, and just because we're nice looking or conventional looking doesn't mean we're not nervous and want to be liked by you too. Like, that to me is the biggest thing that I see sometimes. Once the barriers are broken down and we can all go have lunch and have a good time, and I say something like, oh my gosh, you guys, I was really nervous walking into this group, and they're like, what? You nervous? Yeah, I'm the same as you, just the packaging is different.
Exactly. I was giving a talk at a university once, and I don't know, a few hundred students were there, and somebody asked me, well, I can't believe you don't have any confidence. Look at you. And I said, it's not what you look like. The reason that I do the work that I do, self-appeal, is because at one time I had none. I had no confidence. I had no esteem. I had no sense of who I was. I was drug and alcohol addicted. I ran from boy to boy and then man to man, always looking outside myself. I am one of the most, even today, I was like super nervous. Yes, we that's the human experience.
It almost happens the opposite way, though, too. Now, I am not tall like Sandra. I am not lovely and young and long blonde hair as Sandra is. I'm older. I'm heavy. I am very short. And I almost have the opposite. It's similar, but opposite, in that there are many times that someone will look at an older, heavier woman and not think that they're capable, not think that they have intelligence. And I am not a genius, but I am not. I do have intelligence, and I appreciate. There are many times when I have been in a conversation, especially if you're in a conversation in a hallway, and sometimes you come out of a business meeting, and as people walk out of the meeting, the conversation continues. And I'm a very short woman, and unfortunately that conversation happens figuratively as well as literally over my head, because there's no acknowledgement. And now, of course, where I work now, it is a much more accepting environment. But there have been so many times when there's been that opposite exclusion, not thinking that I was a dumb blonde, but thinking that I was a dumb older woman, and not having the capabilities. And isn't it sad that we do that to each other, that we don't appreciate each individual for their capabilities? Which brings me to my next question for you, Susan. Given that we are facing a lot of intimidation around us, where can a person begin to start building that self-confidence? I've known so many women who tremble. I have a woman I just did a training with about 2 weeks ago. So shy, she could not even say hello to our director, who came in and said, "Oh, hello, I'm so happy to meet you," blah, blah, blah. And she nearly crumbled and just slid under the table because she was so painfully shy. And this woman is a very capable woman. But where can we begin if we are that shy woman that wants to crawl under the table? What can we do?
Great question. First of all, I do offer a free audio, Love Your Body, Change Your Life. And when I talk about body, I'm talking about your physical body, yes, of course, but I'm also talking about your body of thought and your body of emotions. So for anyone who wants to gather more confidence, it's a message to look inside. And I liken it to being a scientist of self. When I was a scientist working at a national research facility, along with engineers and physicists. But then I went into this work as an exotic dancer, and it was within that realm that I had to learn how to grow myself back up. And the memoir that I've written is basically about many of those experiences and what I had to endure. But I bring this up because being a scientist is looking inside yourself, at your body of thought, at your body of emotion, without any judgment or criticism. And this is so hard to do when we're in our lives, but it's so necessary. And it's being that observer and talking to yourself as if you're a best friend. So for the woman who's shy, it's like, what am I really afraid of here? What's really going on? And the other thing that I want to say quickly is that every day, see, we forget this. Our bodies run automatically. For most of us, we don't need to think about breathing. We don't need to think about reaching. Our bodies are so wonderful. And every day we do something that is courageous. And so this courage that we have, we need to focus on that in order to build more and to raise our self-image. So, in other words, I mean, just think about it. Many of us get out and we drive on a regular basis, and driving takes a lot of courage, but it's a habit. So if we start to focus on the way our body works magnificently, not how it looks, but how it works, all the myriad of processes that go on to make us who we are, and then also focus on the courageous things we do as our foundation, then we can move out and build on that.
It's so important, I guess, to find that one thing that we do feel comfortable with. And then once you find the one thing and stretch it a little bit further to a second thing and then another thing, sometimes it does take that little push. Sometimes it might mean support from a friend. Sometimes it might need that maybe it's your mom or your grandma or your sister who's giving you that support. We're with Susan Bremer O'Neill. We're going to be back after the break, so don't go away. We've got lots more ahead. Stay with us on Military Mom Talk Radio.
If you're like me, sometimes you have trouble choosing between being a couch potato or going out. Hey, it's a big decision for us Scobberlatchers. A Scobberlatcher or a ragabash is another word for a lazy person. Well, a couple from California seems to have solved the problem by inventing a motorized sofa. You may think they're just spinning their wheels, but people have spotted the couple cruising down the street on their drivable Davenport in West Los Angeles and Santa Monica. No word yet on the couple's identity, but a man claiming to be a relative said it's all well within the norm for his fun-loving cousin. I don't know if this Chesterfield on wheels is street legal, but either way, I think the police would have to put up quite a chase before they could couch him. It's words you never heard. I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Hey ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and this is Motherhood Talk Radio, and today's show is just for you. Yes, we talked about our children and raising them with good self-esteem, but I think the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's really hard to raise our kids with a solid sense of self, or as Susan Bremer O'Neill puts it, self-appeal, if we don't have that ourselves. And so I want to ask Susan, what do you think was one of the hardest things you had to overcome, or maybe you're still working on overcoming it? I know I am, from where you started to where you are today.
From where I started, you mean as a young girl?
Just in general, like one of the things that I have, and I'll just be honest, is I have a master's degree from Northwestern University. I'm very highly educated. I have a super high IQ, but I can't help but walk into meetings sometime feeling like just this dumb little farm girl with like big boobs, and it's really hard for me to just get rid of that image. I've carried it with me for 40 years.
Okay, totally. I understand that one. Yes, and it is about our self-image. So my self-image is always going to be this young girl who didn't know anyone and who everyone stared at and laughed at. It goes back to my kindergarten years and then kept perpetuating as we would move into new places. So I, before a talk, before a presentation, I often say a short prayer that I sound smart, because my biggest fear is that I'm always going to say something stupid and sound unintelligent. And the more that I get out and the more that I do it, and this is the thing about building confidence. And Robin, what you had mentioned about, yes, connecting with a friend and gathering support is so crucial for women. I mean, all people, but women. But the piece, there you go. I just did it. I sort of lost my train of thought, but the more I do something, the greater confidence I get, and that little girl inside of me who didn't want to be the new girl again, who was afraid of being looked at and laughed at, she's always going to be there. And it's so important. It's so important to embrace her. And that's one of the things that I really stress, is embracing all of us, right? Because there's good with the bad. That young person in me who was so sensitive, she's the artist, she's the creative part of me. Now, she's not necessarily the person who I want to lead me out to give a keynote presentation, because she does become more hesitant, and that's where another aspect of me has to be. But every single part of us is so valid and needs to have their voice heard. So continually moving out into the world to stand fully in truth and honor is how I continue to move through that. But she's still there. She's always going to be there. I just try and give her a hug.
I think we have to give ourselves a hug every so often, and maybe it's a little treat, like maybe it's a new barrette or a hair comb or a scarf, or maybe it's a new class that's going to give us some more experience, maybe taking a community ed class that's going to give us a little more knowledge in speaking French. My daughter right now actually is learning French and German. She has no need for it other than she enjoys traveling and wants to be able to communicate a little bit more comfortably, but she's doing that for her to be a little more confident in when she might be in a situation where other people are speaking another language. It's a growth, and to grow in a new area, I think, gives you that a little more of a self-confidence that you didn't think you had. You accomplished it.
Exactly. Robin, I want to, right before the break, you had just mentioned the opposite of being an older woman or a shorter woman. And I just want to speak to that for just a moment, because I think this is really important, and where all women, again, just looking not at the exterior of another woman, but at the interior. As we've already mentioned, we're all insecure about our appearance. When I was working as that exotic dancer, I worked with so many women, and people would look at me. They would come into the club and they would look at us in there and think that we have have everything together. We're super confident on the stage. We're super sexy. We're always ready to be these kinds of people. And honestly, that's when I was the most insecure, and also the other women that I worked with as well. I mean, when you have people focusing on your external all the time, it's really hard to be secure with who you are. So again, we're all going to age, and we're all going to put on weight as we age, and we all have different genes and different packaging. And the more that we can just wrap, I actually do I call it a loving kindness meditation, where I visualize my heart just open and expanding towards another person, man or woman, because we're all going through this thing called life and managing it in whatever way we can. So I try to embrace women who may seem to be less noticed or less confident because of this very, very fact. I just needed to speak to that and embrace you. I needed to embrace you.
Thank you. I do find there are many times that it's not only women. I know my husband had been laid off. He took a leave, severance, because a company merged with another one and he couldn't continue. Now, he's been gray for many, many years. My husband's hair is as white as snow, and it has been for years. But he still has a lot of years to work if he wanted to. And he would get through a phone interview, or he would at least be good on paper. The minute the interview would start, he would extend his hand to shake hands with the person at the company, and the eyes went immediately to the head. And Steve would say, "You know what? The interview is over right now." In his mind, he knew the minute that person connected with the white hair, the impression was, this is an old man. He's not going to be any good to us. He's going to retire in a few years anyway. Why do we want him? So, I mean, it may be we have a lot of baggage as women, but it happens with men too.
Yes. And the really great thing about growing older, and that we women, all of us, need to focus on, is the fact that we have so many experiences. You don't gain wisdom unless you grow older. And that's the thing that must be emphasized more by all of us, so that maybe the really young people can finally get it. We have a lot of great experience and wisdom.
Oh, that's so true. One of your blogs is kind of intriguing to me. It says your title is "Manage Your Expectations by Not Listening to Experts." When we have something in mind that we think that we're going to accomplish, and we try and do our best, and maybe we falter or we don't quite live up to what we think we are supposed to portray or complete or do, how do we pick up those pieces? Because here we are trying to grow, and we have a little setback.
That piece I wrote because often I find women, especially women entrepreneurs whom I work with and network with, myself included, running around trying to get expert advice from everyone as far as having setbacks and knowing what to do next. I mean, setbacks are a part of life, and the more that we can just sit for a moment in the discomfort, in the disappointment, and really let that inner knowing come through. And that's what I was trying to say, is that at some point we have all the expert advice we need, and that's when we need to slow down and just tune in to ourselves. So perhaps that explains that a little more. We live in a busy world, and we don't need to be that busy, because oftentimes we have the answers inside of us if we just listen.
I think it's so difficult. We feel like we're supposed to be perfect to our children, perfect to our husband, perfect to our bosses. And I think it's hard to be human sometimes, and we have to give ourselves that permission. We've talked about this a lot in the past on our shows, that we almost have to remind ourselves consciously, we have to give ourselves permission to be human. We may not do this exactly right. We may not have the exact answer. We may take a different path than we thought we were going to. And rather than worry or stress or feel that we have failed, we should look at it as an opportunity that happened that we weren't expecting, and what did we gain by it? I mean, there are times that sometimes you learn by mistakes, and that's true. You really do learn sometimes by the mistakes that you make.
One of the things that I think is so important for women is to take action. I tell my clients, action brings relief, and there is no wrong action. If you think about it, if you have a goal in mind of what you'd like to do, then each step you take will either move you towards that goal or move you away from that goal. But if you don't take any step, you're not moving in any direction. So inside ourselves, we have a subconscious that is somewhat like a goal-seeking servo mechanism. So if we're taking action and it's not taking us towards our goal, we're going to redirect after a while. So women who get stuck, and I know this was myself, we get stuck in not taking action. We're afraid, what if it's wrong, if it's not perfect? If we just take the action, we'll learn. As you said, we only learn through mistakes. Typically, if I'm happy, I'm not. I mean, I'm happy. I love being happy. Don't get me wrong, but there's not something I need to be usually learning. To take action. There is no wrong action. Action brings relief.
I love that. And I love that there is no wrong action, because we're going to do the best that we can. We're going to really we're going to learn, we're going to try. There's always a risk involved in just about everything. And to be able to take a risk and succeed is even greater. To take a risk and not quite come out as you expect, maybe there's a new outcome that you were never aware of or didn't think that you could handle, and you're all the better for it. Your enthusiasm and your upbeat, that's so trivial, but you are just a wonderful person, Susan, to be chatting with. I totally am pumped right now and can't wait to continue talking to you on the other side of the break. We're here with Susan Bremer O'Neill. Don't go away. We've got more with Susan after this message. We've lots more ahead. Stay with us on Military Mom Talk Radio.
We often ask, is that all there is? Why is this happening to me? Why am I always broke? How am I going to survive this mess? Then join Dr. Geraldine Tegeloff for Nature Spirit Speak, 7 p.m. Tuesday evenings on TogiNet.com. Geraldine is a metaphysician, nature intuitive, and prosperity coach who shares with you how she went from totally broke to living what she would call her perfectly prosperous life. Through the combination of a wealth of metaphysical knowledge and her amazing ability as an intuitive, Geraldine brings to you the secrets of her magical journey of healing emotionally, spiritually, and financially. As with the ancient seers and master teachers, Geraldine has a unique gift of being able to connect to the simple yet profound messages brought to us by Mother Nature, and happily shares these through today's note to self on her webpage, nature'sspiritspeak.com. If you need help with your journey, why not connect with Geraldine during her show, Nature Spirit Speak, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and our guest today is Susan Bremer O'Neill. You're going to want to check out her website at Self Appeal, SELF Appeal, like sex appeal, but self appeal. And you're going to want to check out her products, because I've been like looking over these pages going, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. And I got to tell you what really caught my eye. And Rob, do you remember when I first got divorced and I didn't know what to do with all my like failure feelings and things? And I took that Krav Maga class. Remember? And I punched and I kicked and I yelled and I screamed. And, you know, it was the best thing. You did. Yes, it was the best thing for me, because I went to that yoga class. Remember, that old man was so much better than me and I wanted to beat him up. And I'm like, wow, yoga is not for me. And when I saw this product that she has, this box it out with your inner critic and you win for more success, and she looks so cute, these little pink boxing gloves, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to go there, Susan, because I'm a big one for, you know, I've got kids and they throw temper tantrums, but as a single mom I cannot throw a temper tantrum. But I'll tell you, going into Krav Maga with the pads on, it was temper tantrum central.
Oh, yeah. Yoga, yeah, I know yoga can be a little bit strenuous. Box it out with your inner critic and win for more success. Yes, I took some boxing. I love the boxing. And I think strength, you know, that's one of the other things, actually, that it's important for moms to consider for children, especially young girls. Let's get them strong. Let's get them to the point where they know how to defend themselves. And there were so many life lessons. The reason, if I may, for a moment, just mention that I wrote my memoir almost actually, it took me 10 years to write it. I self-published it almost 2.5 years ago. And then it took me 2 years to even talk about it, because I had so much shame and guilt, even after spending so much time writing it, because it is a very authentic piece of work. And as I was working with women, moving through my own inner criticisms, it was just something that happened. I put some gloves on one day and I developed this class, Box It Out with Your Inner Critic. And as I went through and learned boxing technique, I became stronger. And that was one of the things that helped me move out into the world as a more authentic and honest woman, sharing my story. And actually, my story is from sex appeal to self-appeal, one woman's journey to recover her body, her sexuality, herself. And it's only been this year so far that I've really been talking about it. But yeah, boxing for strength and confidence as well.
You talked about started talking about your memoir. Was this difficult for you to make public because it was exposure that you weren't ready to reveal?
It was difficult yes and no. You know, I may look courageous, and I guess I am courageous in the fact that courage is not the absence of fear. It's the ability to walk through the fear. So I keep walking through fear. My memoir I wrote because I needed to make some sense out of what I'd experienced, and I wanted to share what I'd gone through so that I could empower other women. I dedicate my book to all the lost girls and lonely women looking for love in all the wrong places and in all the wrong ways, because that's who I was. I really, really thought that if I just looked good, if I just said the right things, if I did what you wanted, if I had the right boyfriend, you know, that would be it. Life would be grand. And I was so mistaken. And so I wrote this book, and I share some highly personal parts. And I think a big part of my hesitation to talk about it was even the fact that I had told my mother about my book, and she wanted to read it, and then she tried to read it, and she told me she couldn't. And it was very difficult for me, but it is honest, and I don't share I don't share the pretty parts. I share the difficult parts. And so it's not for the faint of heart, but it is a journey. It's a journey. And I must add quickly too that I have come through to the other side, and I have a wonderful husband whom I've been married to for 8.5 years, and we have 6 lovely rescue animals. And, life is so much different today, but it was very tough. It was very, very tough. Yeah.
Well, and Susan, this is Sandra. I want to pop in really quick. Did you find, because see, I found this too. When I went in, you went into your boxing and I went into my Krav Maga class. And as I got stronger physically, as I punched and kicked and got stronger, I found that I could go on the radio and talk about these things that were previously enormous shame for me. And whatever it did, that, like for you, if it was boxing, for me it was Krav Maga, whatever that strengthening did allowed me to face it, to own it, to say it, and then to let it go. Did that happen to you as part of your boxing to your book process?
Yes, I think so. I think it's been a long process for me to move through shame, but the boxing was sort of the final piece of it. And I want to say that about shame, it is so important to share. It doesn't need to be at a national level, or you don't need to write a memoir to talk about the things that you have shame about. But it is so important to find that trusted person and talk about the things that you have the shame around, because that's how you heal the shame, and you move through it. And of course, then finding empowering people to be inspired by. But yes, to answer your question, yes, the boxing, I think, was tremendous in many ways.
Right, because I found that shame can only live in silence and darkness. And when I started talking about it, it was amazing how many women came out and said, oh my gosh, the same thing happened to me. Oh my gosh, I left a marriage like that and now I'm remarried. And what it did was it turned the shame into, oh my gosh, I'm not the only person this has ever happened to, which really felt good for me. And then when I saw other women who had walked the path before me and where they were now, it gave me hope. So it was really a surprising thing for me to go from absolute mortifying, stay in your house, lock the doors, pull the shades down, shame, to where I am today. And now I can be a source of hope for other women. I think it's so important what you're doing.
Thank you. Yes, hope is the only thing stronger than fear. Actually, I heard that in it's a quote I heard in one of the Hunger Games movies, and I just loved that. And we all need hope that there is something beyond perhaps where we are right now. And yes, communication and community support to help us stay grounded in who we are and in the process of what life is, definitely.
Well, and I think sometimes you can accomplish something without feeling that sense of conquering it. And you may get through a divorce, or you may get through something on paper, or you may get through it, the procedure is done. But until you have that sense that your heart has been able to conquer it, and whether it be the boxing or the Krav Maga or whatever it is that made you feel strength to overcome it in your heart, that's when I think then you conquer it, and then you have that strength to say, oh, I did this. I got through it. I'm in a good place now. I can go on. And you can't, if you've got this baggage, I don't think you can go on to the next part of your life without tainting it with what's left over. You do have to sort of get beyond it and get on, and have that sense of it's done. I have finished it.
You're right. And there is nothing that you can learn that will, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do to help you move through, as you call, baggage. But you have to move through it. You can't deny it or run away from it. And that's what I had done for so long is in essence, I was ahead living in a body. I like to say that I was brain smart, but I wasn't too body smart because I wasn't feeling what was happening inside of me. So the ability to feel, to have that trusted space, that trusted person, that ability to be that scientist of self and look inside objectively with love and compassion as you would a best friend, that's what will help you move through the challenge and the hurt and the pain in order to create space. See, we have to have space for new things to come into our lives. And we only get that through the courage. I encourage everyone to at least download the audio. It's a free audio on my website, Love Your Body, Change Your Life. And there's a really interesting piece towards the end from I forget the name, but there. Download the audio. It's free, and because everyone has the ability to change through courage. So anyway.
Oh, Susan, this is marvelous. We want to direct you to selfappeal.com, and as Susan was just asking you to do, go to the products in the navigation, and you'll see Love Your Body, Change Your Life audio download right there for you, as well as other downloads if you want to go further in. But Susan, we are at the end of the show, and what a delightful show. We definitely want to bring you back on in the future. It's so invigorating and exciting, and I only am thirsting for more to talk to you. So, and I'm sure everybody else is as well.
Well, thank you, Robin, and Sandra as well. It's been my pleasure. I love talking about all this, and I love talking with women especially, and the fact that your military is just amazing.
They are. They absolutely are. And I think sometimes it is just verbalizing things. Maybe it's talking in the mirror and saying, I'm going to do this. But you are going to face your challenges. You're going to find the way. And because of your conquering it, you're going to be, as you say, make room for all of the other things that are ahead. And we need to live life. We can't shy away from it. We're going to live it one way or another. We might as well live it with our head high and our shoulders back, and we're just going to take it on. Whatever it throws at us, we're going to take it on. Thanks so much, Susan.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Susan Bremer O'Neill. Again, her website is selfappeal.com. We're so delighted that you were with us today. If you've missed any portion of this show or any of our other shows, visit our website, militarymomtalkradio.com. We're also on iTunes. All of our podcasts are right there. Well over 200 of them now are in the bank, so we hope you will take a moment to download some of those. Some of the kids are back in school, and that might give you a little time to appreciate a show you might have missed over the summer. We welcome you back next week. We'll be back again with another great guest here on Military Mom Talk Radio. Have a good week, everyone. Thanks for spending time with us today on Military Mom Talk Radio. We've got more than 200 episodes available to you anytime on iTunes or at our website, militarymomtalkradio.com. Find us on Facebook or Twitter. We look forward to another great conversation with you.